Hi there, I'm B. I'm a writer and a dreamer. I have fun making these videos, and it would be great if you can show your support by liking our videos, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. Thank you.
Imagine this. The galaxy was basically one giant interstellar talent show, except every contestant had a megaphone, zero talent, and a desperate need to be noticed. Entire civilizations competed in what could only be described as the loudest peacocking contest of the cosmos. Their logic was simple. The bigger your signal, the bigger your ego, the bigger your supposed superiority. So the galaxy was flooded with glowing billboards in the stars, orchestral announcements of technological marvels. And oh, my personal favorite, fleets of warships broadcasting their coordinates in real time, like influencers posting gym selfies. Nothing screams security like, look at me. I'm very conquerable and very shiny. Now, humanity had a front row seat to this ridiculous show. While aliens blasted entire operas about their genetic purity across light years, we were sitting in living rooms trying to stop our cats from knocking over Wi-Fi routers. Alien civilizations treated the cosmos like a universal LinkedIn profile. We invented teleportation. Endorse us. While humans, in typical fashion, were busy arguing about pineapple on pizza. Compared to galactic standards, Earth looked broken. At least, that's what the aliens thought. See, to the rest of the galaxy, communication meant screaming at the universe like toddlers throwing tantrums at a mall. For us, communication meant switching from radio waves to fiber optic cables and deciding collectively that dial-up noises were basically the sound of Satan. By the time aliens finally turned their telescopes on us, the glorious human broadcast era, complete with Elvis concerts, news anchors, and I Love Lucy reruns, was long gone. To them, Earth was just another quiet rock, smothered in silence. To us, silence meant Netflix wasn't buffering. But here's where the joke gets cruelly funny. Aliens, these hyper-intelligent, multi-tentacled, galaxy-spanning species, could not process the idea that we simply moved on. In their minds, no species could go from blasting "look at me" signals to dead silence unless it was wiped out. Obviously, the humans were gone, extinct. Another casualty in the great Darwinian Hunger Games of the stars. Pour one out for the poor hairless apes who couldn't stop inventing religions and TikTok dances. Naturally, the galactic community celebrated. One less competitor. One less rival in the endless bragging war. Entire alien news channels ran with headlines like "Primitive Planet Succumbs to Its Own Ignorance," "Experts Not Surprised," and "Species Who Invented Exploding Sticks Finally Blew Themselves Up." It was a universal row session, and humans weren't even invited. Except, while aliens clapped each other on the back for surviving another cosmic purge, humanity was still alive and thriving. Sure, our politics were a dumpster fire. Half the planet couldn't agree on climate change, and our greatest achievements included inventing cheese powder that stuck to fingers for days. But extinction? Nah, we were too stubborn for that. Humanity had a deal with the universe. It could throw asteroids, plagues, world wars, and TikTok influencers at us, but we weren't going anywhere. The problem was, aliens mistook our quiet for death. And here's the kicker. Silence terrified them. Not at first, no. At first they were smug. But then some alien egghead, probably sitting in an overfunded lab surrounded by glowing tubes, asked the question no one wanted to hear. What if they're not gone? What if they're hiding? The entire galaxy froze. Because suddenly, humanity wasn't dead. It was invisible. And invisible, in alien paranoia math, equals dangerous. Think about it from their perspective. Every empire in the stars was obsessed with appearances. Their warships were designed with glowing neon panels, like Las Vegas signs that screamed, "Shoot here." Their leaders held galaxy-wide broadcast debates where they flexed their tentacles and flashed their mandibles for applause. Their soldiers wore uniforms so shiny you could track them with a telescope from the next star system. Everything was visible. Everything was loud. And then there was Earth, a planet that once blared static in sitcoms, and then, poof, nothing, just silence. The louder the galaxy bragged, the more suspicious our silence became. To them, silence wasn't incompetence, it was strategy. Because only a truly advanced species, they reasoned, could vanish so perfectly. Only a terrifying predator would stop broadcasting its location. Predators don't roar, predators stalk. Humans, by doing literally nothing, had just convinced the galaxy that we were apex predators. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we were doing things like arguing over the correct way to eat Kit Kats and turning Dogecoin into a serious investment. Hardly the actions of masterminds. But ignorance is bliss. And in this case, bliss looked a lot like terrorizing alien civilizations without even trying. Some alien civilizations actually went mad over it. A reptilian empire spent 500 years building defense satellites to block signals from our cloaked planet. Another aquatic species demanded all interstellar trade routes avoid our solar system entirely, convinced we were waiting to ambush anyone dumb enough to fly by. Imagine entire economies rerouting around Earth, and all the while humans were just complaining about traffic on the I-95. The paranoia got so bad, there were conspiracy theories in alien tabloids. Headlines like, "The humans are breeding black holes in silence." Could humans be collecting our signals? Experts say yes. 10 signs your neighbor is secretly human. Aliens even made horror holovids about us. In one popular film, a brave alien scout lands on Earth, hears no sound, sees no life, and then gets eaten alive by invisible humans. The tagline? "The quiet ones always kill you first." It was the highest-grossing film in 3-star systems. And all the while, humanity had no clue. We weren't predators. We weren't invisible masterminds. We were just too busy inventing microwavable burritos and binge-watching crime dramas. But that was the brilliance of it. Our sheer incompetence translated through the alien lens of paranoia into genius. So, the first act of this little galactic comedy went like this. Billions of aliens straining their ears, trembling in fear of the quiet monsters hiding on Earth, while the monsters themselves were arguing about whether Han shot first. Humanity, without moving a muscle, had just bluffed the galaxy into believing we were the ultimate apex species. And the punchline? We didn't even know we were playing the game. Picture this. The galaxy had already convinced itself that humanity had ascended into some god-tier predator class because we'd stopped yelling into the void. Aliens huddled in their shiny war rooms, whispering like kids at a haunted sleepover. They're out there, watching us, while we, the supposed nightmare species, were mostly worried about buffering speeds, avocado prices, and whether or not Pluto was still a planet. The punchline is that our vanishing act wasn't some masterstroke of military deception. It wasn't stealth warfare. It wasn't even intentional. It was us being lazy. We didn't turn off the radio signals to confuse aliens. We turned them off because fiber optic cables worked better and radio waves were basically the cosmic equivalent of dial-up internet. The galaxy thought we'd discovered cloaking devices. In reality, we just decided it was easier to watch cat videos without interference. But when you've got a galaxy full of civilizations who think in terms of grand strategy and hyperparanoia, our mundane tech upgrades look like something out of a cosmic horror manual. To them, we weren't gone. We were playing 5D chess. And because alien politics are allergic to common sense, they doubled down on this belief. Take the Valak Dominion. Giant insectoid empire, loved two things: breeding armies the size of planets, and talking way too much about it. When Earth went dark, the Valak assumed we were perfecting total silence warfare. They built entire defense fleets just to sit outside their home world in case the humans decided to uncloak. Fun fact, they never uncloaked anything. But paranoia kept those fleets burning fuel for centuries. Imagine if the Pentagon parked 100,000 fighter jets in the sky forever, just because Canada got quiet. Or the SHYR collective, slug-like aristocrats dripping in jewels, quite literally. These geniuses thought humanity had transcended physical form. They theorized our silence meant we'd uploaded ourselves into some digital realm where we controlled galaxies through thought alone. They even passed laws banning AI research in case humans were watching. You can picture their council chambers, rows of goose slugs debating whether humans had turned into quantum ghosts. Meanwhile, actual humans were debating whether Batman could beat Superman in a fistfight. But the best part? The galaxy started inventing terms to describe us. The silent ones, the hidden apex, predators of soul. Entire alien dictionaries added words that roughly translated to that thing humans are doing that terrifies us, even though we don't understand it. Scholars wrote papers. Generals gave speeches. Priests performed rituals to ward us off. And humanity? Humanity was just trying to get better Wi-Fi coverage in basements. This disconnect was hilarious and devastating because every single alien overthought it. Instead of realizing humans were just incompetent at galactic bragging, they convinced themselves we'd discovered the most dangerous tactic of all, patience. See, aliens could never shut up. It wasn't in their cultural DNA. Silence, to them, was worse than death. Even in battle, they announced every maneuver. We are flanking you. We are charging. We are activating weapons. Subtlety was as foreign to them as common sense is to politicians. So when humans suddenly stopped broadcasting everything, aliens assumed we had evolved past communication. Imagine the scene. A galactic council chamber the size of Jupiter's ego. Every species that could wiggle a tentacle, flap a wing, or ooze across a chair was there. The agenda? The same one they'd been rehashing for decades. What the hell happened to the humans? Half of them swore we'd gone extinct. The other half insisted we were lurking in the cosmic shadows like space ninjas, sharpening our teeth on moons. The debate went on for centuries. Meanwhile, on Earth, we were inventing Pop-Tarts. And here's the real kicker. The longer we stayed quiet, the louder the galaxy panicked. Imagine if you text someone, they don't reply for 10 minutes, and you're already wondering if they hate you. Now imagine that same silence stretched across centuries, backed by rumors that the Silent Party once built weapons by accident that could vaporize cities. Yeah, the aliens were basically spiraling into full-blown space paranoia. One species, the Zerth Collective, convinced themselves that humans had cloaked the entire solar system. They poured resources into developing anti-human detection satellites, which was basically galactic code for money laundering projects that blinked pretty lights. The project bankrupted their economy. Did humans lift a finger? No. We were too busy arguing whether a hot dog counted as a sandwich. Another empire, the Crystalline Vor, went even further. They declared that humanity had mastered some forbidden art of cosmic camouflage. According to them, Earth hadn't gone silent. It had gone everywhere. The humans were invisible ghosts now, living between atoms, spying on galactic council meetings. Their solution? Build walls of neutron cannons, pointing at empty space. Billions of credits spent, all to blast cosmic voids. To this day, there are abandoned Vor defense stations littered across star systems, drifting like glowing billboards that read, "We were terrified of a species that forgot to pay attention." The comedy gold here is that humans didn't even notice this galactic panic. Our scientists weren't out there cackling in labs, pulling strings, whispering dance, alien fools dance. No, they were busy with things like discovering how to deep fry butter and make YouTube videos of cats falling off tables. And that scared the aliens even more. Because if we could inspire terror while being this incompetent, imagine what we could do if we tried. The galactic elites tried to calm each other down, of course. They convened symposiums, published academic papers with titles like On the Probability of Human Cloaking Technologies, a meta-analysis, and Silence as a Weapon, the Soul Menace. None of these scholars had ever met a human, but that didn't matter. Their papers were cited endlessly, peer-reviewed, and translated into 47 alien dialects. If you want the first true example of fake news on a cosmic scale, congratulations, you just found it. Trade routes started shifting. Entire star sectors became no-fly zones simply because they were too close to human space. Haulers would literally take detours of light years, burning fuel, wasting resources, just to avoid a solar system where the scariest thing happening was a reality show called Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Whole galactic economies bent around Earth, as if we were some malevolent black hole. Except the only thing we were sucking in was fast food and reruns. Some alien civilizations tried diplomacy. And by diplomacy, I mean sending unmanned probes to creep up to Earth's orbit, hoping for a glimpse. Most of those probes fried in the Van Allen belts, got confused by our junk satellites, or crashed into Jupiter's storms. A few picked up faint signals from Wi-Fi routers and panicked. Imagine a probe intercepting fragments of baby shark bouncing off the ionosphere. If that doesn't sound like psychological warfare, I don't know what does. To aliens, it was the ultimate horror message. A primitive species transmitting a weaponized loop designed to break minds. They filed it under sonic torture. Meanwhile, our governments? Absolutely clueless. NASA wasn't sitting there going, "We've created the perfect cloak to terrify galactic empires." They were budgeting duct tape fixes on Mars rovers. But perception is everything. And the galaxy perceived us as the apex predator who had mastered the art of silence, psychological warfare, and strategic invisibility. All by accident. Eventually, paranoia became religion. In one sector, a cult popped up called the Order of the Silent Apex. Their creed? Fear the quiet ones, for their teeth are sharpest. They wore masks shaped like human skulls, painted murals of humans devouring stars, and sacrificed livestock to appease us. Somewhere on Earth, some actual human goth kids were doing the same thing for fun, but the difference was the cult meant it. Entire species prayed we'd never notice them. Joke's on them, we didn't. And here's the crown jewel of galactic stupidity. They built fleets. Not just fleets, decoy fleets. Some empires figured the best way to flush out the humans was to send massive armadas into Sol's neighborhood. Then, they pretend to fight themselves, hoping the hidden humans would intervene. What actually happened? Their fleets wasted fuel, ships exploded due to mechanical failures, and everyone went home pointing fingers. Humans? Still didn't show up. The galaxy wrote it down as human psychological dominance. Reality check. We were too busy figuring out TikTok dances to care. But the longer this dragged on, the more the galaxy convinced itself we were watching. Every glitch, every unexplained cosmic signal, every missing probe was blamed on us. Star explodes prematurely? Must be the humans. Fleet goes missing in hyperspace? Definitely humans. Someone's milk spoils early? You guessed it, humans. We weren't just predators anymore. We were the boogeymen under every alien bed. And it was deliciously ironic. See, the galaxy overthinks everything. They analyze, dissect, debate, overplan, and then panic when things don't add up. Humans? We wing it. We improvise. We forget birthdays. We burn toast. But that improvisational chaos, when paired with silence, looked to aliens like some grandmaster strategy they couldn't even begin to comprehend. Because if you're loud, everyone knows where you stand. If you're quiet, they invent horrors to fill the silence. And so, entire star systems lived in fear of a planet that, on its best day, could barely agree on the rules of monopoly. We became the phantom menace, the myth whispered in back rooms, the shadow behind every war council. The galaxy thought it was in an arms race with us. In reality, it was in an arms race with its own imagination and losing. So, after centuries of galactic paranoia, armadas burning fuel to nowhere, and alien scholars writing entire dissertations on the human silence doctrine, the inevitable happened. We finally showed up. And oh boy, did we make an entrance. Completely unintentionally, of course, because planning is overrated and humans are far better at stumbling into destiny while spilling coffee on the controls. It wasn't even some grand reveal. No ominous shadow blotting out the stars. No menacing fleet emerging from hyperspace with trumpets blaring. Nope, it was a mining ship. A clunky, rust-streaked, duct-taped-together hunk of steel called the Perseverance II, crewed by underpaid workers whose main concern was whether the coffee dispenser on board would ever stop tasting like burnt socks. They'd been chewing on ration bars for 6 months and were one Wi-Fi outage away from mutiny. That ship, creaking and wobbling like a drunk uncle at a wedding, was the first human vessel to stumble into alien space. You'd think the galaxy, with all its advanced sensors and shiny fleets, would laugh. Instead, utter panic. You'd have thought a death god just walked in wearing sunglasses. Alien admirals screamed. Entire defense networks went on red alert. Ships scrambled into formation. Diplomats fainted, because in their heads this wasn't some mining barge. They saw it as the tip of the iceberg, the first pebble rolling downhill before the avalanche. And the crew? They had no idea. When alien warships demanded to know the nature of their cloaked arrival, the humans were like, we were following a mineral vein, and the GPS got drunk. Who are you guys again? No threats, no weapons, just pure human awkwardness. But to the galaxy, that shrug was scarier than any declaration of war. Because only the truly powerful can walk into a room full of guns, trip over the carpet, and still act like it's no big deal. Naturally, alien leaders convened. They demanded to know how humanity had hidden its fleets for centuries, how we'd mastered cloaking fields strong enough to shield an entire planet, how we'd managed to infiltrate their systems without detection. Humanity's official response? Cloaking fields? Oh no, we just stopped broadcasting because, fiber optics. Netflix, Zoom calls, all that. And then, the cherry on top. Honestly, we didn't think anyone was listening. That sentence alone sent a shiver across the stars. Didn't think anyone was listening. The galaxy, obsessed with vanity, with broadcasting their every invention and flexing like interstellar gym rats, could not fathom the idea that humans had simply stopped caring. To them, it sounded like psychological dominance on a scale they couldn't comprehend. Because in their paranoid little heads, silence was never apathy. It was strategy. And strategy meant we'd been playing them all along. Back on Earth, meanwhile, no one was strategizing anything. Politicians were arguing about taxes. Gamers were screaming at each other over lag. Farmers were worried about rainfall. But the galaxy didn't see that. They saw a species so cunning, so masterful, that it had weaponized boredom. And that's when the whispers began. If silence was enough to terrify us, what would noise do? The truth is, humans had built fleets. Not because of the aliens, though we just got bored and restless, and apparently staying on one planet forever didn't sit well with a species that invented bungee jumping for fun. So yeah, we had colonies on Mars, research stations floating around moons, and ships cobbled together with the grace of duct tape and hope. Nothing glamorous. But when we finally cruised into alien space with more than one vessel, the galaxy saw doom incarnate. To them, our ships weren't junky steel cans. They were invisible monsters that had been hiding all this time, waiting to strike. Here's where it got truly hilarious. The galaxy demanded we reveal the full extent of our hidden navy. They wanted numbers. They wanted data. They wanted the truth. And humanity, being humanity, sent a diplomat with a PowerPoint presentation. I kid you not. Picture it. A human standing in front of the most powerful species in the cosmos, clicking through slides about current fleet assets. Except the slides had typos, clip art, and probably a stock photo of a family smiling under a sunset. And when an alien general roared, "How many ships do you command?" the diplomat shrugged and said, "A few dozen working, a few hundred in progress." Honestly, depends if Congress approves the budget. Aliens didn't hear incompetence. They heard psychological warfare. Depends if Congress approves the budget sounded, in their twisted interpretations, like we have so many fleets we don't even keep track. That one phrase alone sent 3 empires into emergency military spending sprees. Billions of credits were poured into building countermeasures against an enemy that hadn't even noticed there was a fight. And humans, bless our clueless souls, kept making it worse without realizing. A human captain once joked during a trade negotiation, "Oh, we've got weapons you wouldn't believe. One button push, and you'd be toast." He meant nukes, because in Earth terms, that's our big scary card. To the galaxy, they heard planet-killer technology casually wielded like a lighter. The rumors spread like wildfire. Humans possessed doomsday weapons but chose not to brag about them. Because why brag when you already know you can win? That's when the galaxy collectively lost its mind. Treaties were drafted overnight. Fleets that had once postured against each other were suddenly pointing their guns away from human space, just in case. Entire species that hadn't agreed on anything in millennia united under one thought. Whatever you do, don't piss off the humans. And all this because we were silent for a few decades and then showed up looking confused. Here's the funniest part. The aliens asked us why we finally revealed ourselves. They expected a speech about destiny, power, galactic conquest. Instead, humanity answered with complete honesty. Well, we wanted better minerals, and your space lanes looked closer than ours. Figure we'd ask if we could, borrow them. Maybe trade. Do you guys take credit cards? Imagine the galaxy's face. These towering empires, paranoid and trembling, convinced they'd been manipulated by shadow gods of silence, only to find out that humanity just wanted cheaper mining costs. That was the moment the galaxy realized the true nightmare wasn't our weapons, our fleets, or our silence. It was our casualness. Because if silence terrified them this much, and we weren't even trying, what would happen if humans decided to actually put an effort? That question never got answered, because by then, no one wanted to find out. And so, the galaxy signed the first treaty with us. Not because we threatened them, not because we demanded it, but because they realized the scariest possibility of all. Humanity had outsmarted the galaxy without even noticing. So there we were, humanity accidentally terrifying an entire galaxy without firing a single shot, without raising a single banner, without even realizing we were in the game. And the punchline? The galaxy signed peace treaties with us before we even knew we were at war. That's right. Aliens bent the knee to a species that couldn't even decide what business casual meant. The final treaty negotiations looked less like high diplomacy and more like an awkward office meeting. Imagine it. Hundreds of alien delegates sweating slime, vibrating antennae, twitching eye stalks, all waiting for the terrifying apex predators of Earth to announce their demands. And humanity? We sent a diplomat who showed up late because the shuttle's coffee machine exploded. They opened with, "Sorry for the delay," traffic was brutal, and the galaxy collectively flinched like we'd just issued a veiled threat. The aliens expected ultimatums. They braced for a list of demands: tribute, planets, star systems, perhaps entire species sacrificed in our honor. Instead, the human delegation said, "We'd like trade agreements, maybe some cultural exchanges. Also, any chance you guys know how to fix a leaky oxygen recycler? Our ships are a bit held together by duct tape." The galaxy heard. These monsters are so powerful, they don't even want resources. They just want to toy with us. One alien empire tried to test our strength, just to be sure. They sent a fleet to escort one of our freighters through neutral space, assuming they'd intimidate us into revealing our true numbers. The freighter captain, a guy named Rodriguez from New Mexico, thought they were just being friendly. He invited the alien admirals aboard for dinner. They expected a trap. They got tacos. Real, messy, grease-dripping tacos. The aliens nearly wept because in their minds, this was some kind of psychological dominance ritual. Feed your enemies comfort food while planning their doom. Rodriguez? He just liked cooking. And this was the cosmic joke, wasn't it? The galaxy spun itself into knots over our silence, convinced we were masterminds of deception, predators cloaked in shadow. And the reality was, we were just distracted. We weren't plotting domination. We were too busy making memes, fighting over the Oxford comma, and inventing faster ways to microwave noodles. But perception is reality. In the galaxy's eyes, we were gods of subtlety. Silence had done what no human fleet ever could. It sowed paranoia. It drained economies. It sparked arms races. It united species that hated each other just because they feared us more. All the while, we just kept living, stumbling forward, accidentally casting the longest and darkest shadow in galactic history. And here's the real kicker. Once the treaties were signed, once the galaxy acknowledged us as equals, or worse, superiors, we finally realized the game we'd been playing. And humanity, being humanity, we couldn't resist leaning into it. The first time an alien ambassador asked, Do you intend to expand your territories? Our representative paused for dramatic effect, took a sip of water, and said, "We'll think about it." The aliens nearly fainted. We didn't say yes. We didn't say no. We just left the silence hanging in the air like a loaded gun. And from that day forward, we knew the truth. Silence wasn't just golden, it was nuclear. Because here's the thing the galaxy never understood. Humans thrive in chaos. We trip, we fall, we laugh, we fight, we build, we break, and we always come back swinging. We're too stubborn to die, too chaotic to predict, and apparently, too quiet to track. The aliens looked at us and saw a horror story. We looked at ourselves and saw a species just trying to make it a Friday. But the end result was the same. Humanity, without meaning to, had outsmarted the galaxy. The historians of 1,000 species now record it with reverence, the Silence War. They teach their children about the shadowy humans who vanished from the stars and returned as nightmares in the flesh. They paint us as demons, saviors, or gods. And the truth that we just swapped radio for broadband never even enters the record. Because why ruin a good legend with facts? And so, the galaxy tiptoes around us, terrified of the quiet ones. Empires crumble, alliances form, wars start and end, but everyone remembers the species that conquered without trying. The species that turned apathy into strategy. The species that made silence louder than any fleet. That species was us. Humanity. The cosmic pranksters. The accidental apex predators. The coffee-fueled gremlins who stumbled into galactic dominance because we couldn't keep our signals straight. And the moral of the story? Never underestimate humans. We don't need fleets. We don't need superweapons. We don't even need to open our mouths. Give us a little silence, and the galaxy will destroy itself imagining what we might do. Because in the end, silence wasn't just our shield. It was our sharpest weapon, and we wielded it the only way humans know how, by accident, with sarcasm, and with absolutely no clue what we were doing.